And I would say, Tracy, it's built on reflection, but to seize opportunity. But over those years, having built my career, built my businesses, to a point where I could step away and reflect, I've been able to do just that, to capture the lessons learned.
The collaborative entrepreneur.
Okay, everyone, what makes a person qualified to add value to another human being? I just want you to think about that. What qualifies a person to add value to others? Well, of course, if you're new to the term of adding value, which has been made very popular with speakers like John Maxwell and others, adding value to another human being is about positively influencing them so that they can in turn impact others that you may not know. And that's what this program is all about. That's why this collaborative entrepreneur show exists. My name is Tracy Currington and I'm your host. This is the show where we aim to build partnerships in order to grow our business. And the partnerships are not a documented thing. It's a partnership with two entrepreneurs on the same call, adding value. And my guest today was trained as an economist in Guyana. He also immigrated to the United States as a young man, earned his MBA, worked on Wall Street. He now operates in travels in between the states of Michigan, Florida, and Hawaii. And what he does is he applies a unique blend of business strategies along with his own personal experiences and wisdom to help individuals prosper as well as companies grow. He's the founder of Achievement Resources. He's a coach. He's a public speaker. He's a gifted storyteller. He's a friend. And I know that you're gonna enjoy the time together as he adds value to us. No doubt we're gonna take this call in different directions, but the insights and the lessons that you'll gain from him, I know will be helpful for you. So stay tuned with us and help join me in welcoming Renwick Brutus to our show today. Renwick, thank you so much for being on the call today.
It's my absolute pleasure, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
So great. So Renwick, we've gotten to know each other over the last year, especially more and more as we get to meet once a week in our little accountability group, and you always give some insight to either the struggles that others have or me, or and then also being very transparent and open about what you're working through. So share with our viewers real quick, just what's the aerial view, the 30,000 feet in the air, like maybe from where you came to where you are right now, and how you serve people right now.
Yeah, and I would say, Tracy, it's built on reflection. Time alone, time away, time out of the hustle and bustle. I'm at a stage of my life where, having, as you noted, immigrated as a young, scared kid from Guyana, South America, to New York City, in the center of the universe where everything happens fast and where the brightest and best with the greatest desire and passion to succeed converge. Having started there and then moved out of Michigan to be a little more tranquil, but to seize opportunity. But over those years, having built my career, built my businesses, to a point where I could step away and reflect, I've been able to do just that, to capture the lessons learned.
Mm-hmm.
Having asked many hundreds of clients what their journey was, what were the best practices, what were the lessons learned, what were their struggles, what caused them to be successful, and sometimes not. I've been able to amalgamate some of these lessons that I now weave into what I share for the little Renwicks.
Yeah.
For the little kids, whether they're in high school or just recently graduated from college, or the entry-level employee, or the mid-level manager, or the C-suite executive, all of whom want the same things: to be healthy, to have a measure of success, to be happy, and to enjoy their lives.
Yeah.
And so my work today involves engaging with those myriad folk I just mentioned, to examine and to ask them to reflect themselves on where they are and where they want to go. What do they want more of? What do they want less of? What do they believe is standing in the way? Where have they seen success that they admire and maybe want to emulate? What above everything else, all that competes for their limited time and resources and energy, do they want to pursue? So that I can come alongside them and help them navigate the paths, the roadblocks, the hurdles, to finding their path free, more free than if I were present.
Yeah, excellent. Love that. I love how you brought in the at the time of life that you're in right now, with a lot of the things from, you mentioned the scared little boy coming and immigrating, and then getting your MBA, and then growing a business, and then now in a different time of your life, that reflection. I've heard it said that we are best prepared or best qualified to coach and mentor the younger version of ourselves. So our audience, there's likely going to be a young 20-year-old, 25-year-old budding entrepreneur. Maybe they're that scared kid from South America coming into the hustle and bustle of a major city. Maybe they're right now in the States, there's a lot of graduation going on. So somebody's leaving high school, or maybe they're out of college now, and they're entering into a different time of their life. Talk to me about that if you were coaching that younger version of yourself, what are some of the hurdles that you faced then, that reflecting back on it, being challenged with maybe a coach, or some of the decisions that you made, what is that message that young man, that young version of yourself needs to hear?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one I've spent a lot of time over the years, and I continue to spend time examining. And I'll respond by sharing a couple of personal experiences. One notable one being, when I left Guyana, South America, to come to the United States, I was 24 years old. And the plane stopped in transit at Piarco International Airport in Trinidad. And they had some mechanical difficulties. And so we had to stay overnight. And it gave me a lot of time to come to terms with what was happening in my life. I was leaving the place of my birth, where I had lived for 24 years, to go to a place that I'd never visited, not in person. Yes, I'd seen movies, I had family members, my parents had visited, but I'd never been there. So I had a very active imagination as to what I might expect. And here's what I thought I might encounter. Like I said earlier, the brightest, the best, the most driven in the greatest country on the face of the earth, with people who were the most highly educated and most effective at what they did. Many of whom, probably most of whom, would not ever have heard of Guyana, South America, would not ever have imagined that I, this little kid, this young adult, could contribute much, could bring much value to them. And so as I sat on the plane that morning after, I asked myself, how are you going to make it? How are you going to navigate all these preconceived ideas people may have about you to truly measure up? And here's what occurred to me. And I instilled it in my mind, and it's never left me. And it was this: I am a citizen of the world. And I will not let anyone discount who I am, what I'm capable of, and what I can contribute to their well-being. Instead, I will affirm that whatever I've experienced, even what I haven't, has prepared me like it has no one else ever before or ever again will, to bring a unique perspective born from unique experiences and struggles and challenges and lack. But from all of that, make interpretations and come to terms with very novel ways that I can take what I've interpreted from my life experiences to add value to people's lives like no one else ever had or ever will. Mm-hmm. And so that was liberating for me. In that moment, it occurred to me, Renwick, you're gonna stand tall, you're gonna walk into any room, anywhere with anyone, and know that you will add value and improve their lives, whether they recognize it at the outset or not. But one thing would be sure, it's not sufficient that you do it. It's absolutely essential that you invite them to examine how you did.
Yeah. Good stuff. So I'm thinking about a quote by Socrates, to know thyself. And then, and my mentors shared with me that the rarest form of knowledge is self-knowledge. I'm thinking about this 24-year-old kid, a 20-year-old kid, let's say, a 19-year-old, maybe they're just entering it, they're leaving high school, they're entering it, hey, the world's their oyster. And a lot of them are not prepared with, or they're not, maybe I say this, they're not armed with that self-awareness. And so here you are, 24, maybe you're seeking opportunity, whatever it was, like the leading cause to go to America and, and be successful and have that impact that you were wanting to have. What do you think is involved? What does it take for a person, especially a young person? Because I think, like when you were talking, I was going back in my mind, like, yeah, there was a time in my life when I had to come to grips with who I am and what I have to offer, like a personal identification. And there's a struggle today I see, especially with the young people in how they're identified. And I don't mean to get into like a, some kind of political arena where, I identify as a cat, or I identify, like, there's a lot of nonsense that's going on in the world because this lack of identification. And so when you look back in there, how does a younger person, or how did you at least come to that personal identification where you, like, I know me, I know what I have to offer, and I'm a citizen of the world. I'm not going to let anybody talk down to me. What somebody else thinks of me is none of my business. Those kinds of things. How did you come to that?
Yeah, great question. I've had countless opportunities over the course of my life to speak to audiences from the platform. Mm-hmm. And invariably there comes a moment when I share that I'm not there to profess or encourage anyone to pursue a particular faith or belief system. Mm-hmm. But I can share what mine is. And I will, because it was significant in my life. Mm-hmm. I happen to be a Christian. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where I would have been were I not. Mm. Because I know that I dealt with lots of fear, lots of anxiety, lots of bias and prejudice against me. And there were moments of darkness and deep weakness and feelings of inadequacy and this constant wondering how I was going to make it. Mm. And it was only when I came to terms with the reality for me that as a child of God, this omnipotent, omniscient, ever-knowing, most powerful, mighty creator, I was created to be golden. Hmm. I wasn't created to be junk. Hmm. I may not have realized it. I may still have had to do a lot of introspection to discover where the treasure was within me. But it started with a belief that it did exist. And it was for me to take the time to understand and to find it, and know that once I found it, I should and would use it. And so to the 10-year-old, the 15-year-old, the 20-year-old, the 50-year-old, the 80-year-old who's struggling at various points in time, like I have, I say, recognize that you're golden. Recognize that you have within you incredible power and treasure, because you're created as such. It's up to you to take the time to discover what that is. And quite often it isn't very apparent. You have to dig for it, just like you have to dig for so many other treasures, whether it's gold or diamonds. It requires an excavation, and it takes time, but it's inescapable that if you put the time in to understand yourself and understand human nature, you will find an intersection of both awareness of your treasure and the treasure that lays hidden within others. And it's you're having taken the time and gone through the process of discovering yours that you're able to help others do the same thing.
Brilliant. Love it. Love it. Les Brown, motivational speaker. I love hearing him speak. He's got a laugh that's just kind of like infectious, but he's known for saying there's greatness in you. And whenever I hear him say that, I always refer to it like there's that potential that has been gifted of God to you. There's a role that you, as a citizen of the world, God putting you here, and I'm a believer as well, God putting you here, and he's put you on purpose, but with a purpose. And that purpose is to glorify him by fulfilling what he put you on this planet to do. So I love that acknowledgement. I'd never heard it quite put that way about being a citizen of the world, that like, hey, listen, I belong here. I am part of the dominant race of mankind in the world. I'm a citizen of the world. And, you know, I mean, when I read in Genesis that he gave mankind dominion over everything, there's not a being more powerful than man on planet Earth. So like, and I'm a citizen, I get to be part of that company. I could have been, you know, like made an antelope or an insect, but that's not how I was designed. I was designed with a soul, with power, with giftedness. So you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned the prejudice that's on around you, and then the inadequacies that, and the fears, the anxieties, the sense of personal weakness that can develop within you. Thinking into that young man, or maybe another person that maybe you've coached over the years, that they went through this to like, hey, there's greatness in you, but they couldn't see it past their own personal anxieties, their fears, their like, and like, there's a lot of mindset work that we have to get through, and a lot of self-evaluation that we have to go through in order to dig that deep, to find that purpose. What is something that you've seen that has been helpful for that young person or that older person, that they're just stuck? It's a scarcity mindset, or, you know, some competing commitment that they've made that's getting in the way of their success. And as coaches, that's one of the things that we do, right? We people who need coaching are people that are stuck and need different results. So how do you get somebody beyond that to where they can actually dig deep and discover that purpose for which they were created?
Yes, great question. There have been so many times, again, over the course of the years, when someone has said to me, "You're so articulate," or "You're such a good communicator." And
I agree.
And I say thank you. And then I hasten to say that as a little boy, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, I was incredibly timid. I was very shy. I hardly said anything. And later on, but while that was the case for me, I paid very rapt attention to orators, great politicians, great pastors. My favorite part of going to church was listening to the pastor or the priest weave stories and bring stories to life. And so I paid rapt attention. And then later on, as I went through graduate school, if there was one most valuable lesson I learned, it was embodied in a sentence shared by the professor of a communications class when he said, there is a direct correlation between your quality of life and your ability to communicate.
Wow.
And that just stood out, and I made a note of it. And I found that to a large extent be true. It's not always the case, because there's some people who are just very gifted creators and artists and so forth who create masterful works. And I guess they do communicate, but not verbally. Communicate through their body of work. But having said that, so I realized that it was important that I learn to communicate. And to that end, I learned the value of affirmations and of studying, of reading on subjects that I consider to be of relevance to my goals, to my sense of success. And so I read consistently on how to achieve success, how to be better, on such matters as identifying models of success. Those who, in my mind, in my life experience, are successful, but then beyond that, why? What are the attributes that they possess that I believe cause them to be successful? And then which of those do I want to develop in myself? And based on the answer to those questions, then deployment of a practice that I found to be incredibly powerful. It has been for me because it had been for many others who suggested it. And that is affirmations. Writing out positive present tense statements of who I want to be as if it already were so. So I wrote, I'm a master communicator. I love helping people. Executives trust my judgment. I'm an advisor to the brightest leaders in companies, and similar affirmations. So for the youngster who wants to get over self-doubt, I would say, write affirmations. I am confident. I am incredibly successful. I am on a journey of absolute unequivocal success. I love working with people. People love working with me. And any number of attributes that you perceive to be relevant for who you want to be, so that you can then use them to be and achieve what's most important to you.
Outstanding. So I heard like there was mentorship. I love the statement, the quality of life is directly reflected to your ability to communicate. And I've heard that so many, John Maxwell has a book, Everyone Communicates, but Few Connect. And in that he shares a statistic of the number one quality that CEOs and big time leaders of corporations, what they value most is that ability to communicate. When you can, I mean, like that's the thing that they would go for out of everything. You know, you'd think that like I need to be more understand technology better or some other thing, but the ability to communicate for a leader is the number one attribute that they value most. So I love that, and so success leaves clues, and I love the. As you said, you followed up on resources, reading books, learning from the models that were given you in real life, in real time, and maybe books of autobiographies or biographies of other, great men and women who have been successful, and then following that, and then also your personal affirmation about, letting yourself know, hey, I am worth it. I do have value, and then looking at it that way. I'm wondering for you, from that 24-year-old scared, young man coming into an environment that's foreign to you, you've never visited there before, they speak a different language and so forth. When was it that you knew there was a level of confidence that you finally, you got it? Like there was this intimidation, this fear, this anxiety, but then like Was it in your late 20s? Was it in your 30s? When was it that you just had this confidence that you had developed from knowing all that you know to be true about yourself?
Tracy, I must say that is probably the most profound question I've ever been asked. Congratulations to you for asking it. And it was when I realized this, and I was in my 40s when I realized it. And it was right there all along. And I tell you where it was. It was when I realized that my greatest sense of freedom occurred when I was out there in nature on my own or with family or friends, just enjoying each other and the environment we were in. When I realized that the quest that many of us are on for higher education, to generate more income, to have a bigger house, a nicer car, a retirement portfolio, all of that is misplaced when we don't recognize the completeness, the true fulfillment and happiness and the healthiest living experience happens right here, right now. It was in that moment, which happened to be in my 40s, that when I realized that, it's like Ecclesiastes. It's all of it is for now.
Yeah.
It's what is the point? And I think the point really is to live, and you said it, to let our gifts and talents be used to glorify God. And there's a part of that involves gratitude for being alive, for being here right now, being here to be thankful, be grateful, but also to then ask, how could I uplift that next person who shows up? When the phone rings, even when there's somebody trying to sell us something, how could we say something and in a way that compliments and affirms that person? How could we, with that employee, with that customer, with that manager, with that potential customer, ask a question that enlists discoveries about the abundance that they possess, how happy they can be in that moment, and then the next, and then the next. And so the confidence, knowing that I was incredibly valuable and would, wherever I was, be counted, be appreciated, came when I made myself available to just be authentic, be a child of God, to simply understand ultimately that I didn't need much of this stuff.
Yeah.
Not that it doesn't have its purpose, and not that it shouldn't be pursued, but it should be kept in its proper place.
Yeah. You, Renwick, I agree with your bio that you're a gifted speaker, you're a gifted storyteller. And I think I value words. Words matter. And the words that you say to yourself matter. And the words, like at the beginning of this, we were talking about reflection. You mentioned about reflection, and you mentioned something about what others think of me. And that is so classical 20s. Because you don't know. You don't know, and you're you show up, hey, you got hired, I hope I can do the job. I mean, like, there's so much self-doubt. And I find a lot of people are, they want to be like this one. They want to be like this one. They, I want to be a rock and roll star like this person, but why not be if they're going to write songs, or they're going to play the guitar, they're going to sing like this person. So it's just an imitation of another person instead of the true, authentic being that you were created and designed specifically for. That there's only one key that unlocks that door. And if you fail to be notched in the areas that God notched you, it's not going to unlock success for you, in that you can never open that door until you be the real key God designed you to be. And when you were thinking that, I was just thinking about myself, and it's just so true. In my 40s, so I'm 48. But it was in my 40s. It wasn't that long ago when I made peace. Because of all that, like, I'm going to be this person, I'm going to be this person. I love that quality. And I made peace with accepting I can admire somebody's qualities even if I don't possess them. I don't have to have them in order to still enjoy them. And I made peace with who I am. I heard notes of contentment, of gratitude for all you've been given. What do I need? But and I think it's really, in a lot of ways, the call has gone deeper in philosophical, spiritual tones. And I was thinking, as you were talking, with the gray hair, the little gray beard, and I'm thinking, like, this is Ecclesiastes. This is the notes of the preacher. When he's talking about, I lived it, I did it. And at the end of it, what is the whole duty of man? But to love God and to fulfill that purpose that he's designed you for. What else could you have done that would be more deserving of the well done, thou good and faithful servant? Like, be who I created you to be. But I think that involves giving yourself permission, identification. We talked a little bit about that. So this is my question, because you're further down. I'm at mile marker 48, and you're further down the road. We're on the same highway, but you're at mile marker. How old are you?
63.
Okay, you're at mile marker 63. I will one day be where you are. So I'd like to know, and I'm sure my audience would love to know, what changed for you when that permission was granted? I'm going to be the true Renwick, because there's all the struggle from 24 to in your 40s, so for, let's say, 2 decades, this wrestling, trying to figure out life, figuring out yourself, figure out your skill set, all this kind of stuff, and then making peace with it. What's changed in the last 20 years for you on this side of self-confidence?
Yeah, and I've written quite a bit about it. It's bundled in 2 core ideas. One is being financially invincible. And as someone who's done a lot of work in the wealth advisory space, continue to help clients, but not only with their investments, but with their mindset, their attitude about money, their attitude about stuff, to help them recognize, like I said earlier, that the greatest happiness, when I ask people to place themselves at their happiest moments in life, it usually was when they were doing something very, very simple, out in nature, hiking, traveling with loved ones, right? And so I said, so that's something you'd like to duplicate, isn't it? And invariably the answer is yes. But there's this sometimes obsession with accumulating money. So there's that piece, the financial invincibility piece, getting to a place where, you have money, it's a way of keeping score, but you're not attached to it. And you can live joyfully and very contentedly with a little. There's that piece. And so the other side to that is this notion of being irresistible. And so when I ask audiences, who here likes when people step into their life and help them, maybe achieve something, get to a certain point, complete a project, everybody raises their hand. I said, who here gets as much of it as you would like? Invariably, no hands are raised. So there's a gap between how much we appreciate being helped and how much we actually receive. And so I say, wouldn't it be nice if we had more people helping us solve problems, overcome challenges, achieve goals, get there faster? The answer is yes. I said, so everybody in the room wants that. And then few of us, if any at all, get enough of it. So how about we become the person who steps into that gap and makes people's lives easier, help them overcome obstacles, solve problems, achieve goals, achieve them faster. I said, that's the opportunity. And so what changed for me was that awareness, becoming acutely aware that living with that type of philosophy is really all that we need to succeed. That's really all that we need. Look for problems when the world runs away from them. Look to serve. Be relentless in making ourselves available to help others. Help our kids, help our spouses, help our friends, help our neighbors. Help the person who calls, help the person whose door we knock on. Just be there to help them. And so it was empowering. So that's what changed, is this heightened, acute awareness. Life for many of us has been made to be much more complicated than it need be. And this matter of achieving a successful life isn't far removed from where we are right now. We just need to do a little tweak in the way we think, in the way we approach life every day. That's what was most profound in the change I experienced.
Yeah, that's a very mature answer. And I mean, it's been a pleasure to get to share this time with you and to extract the wisdom, some of the wisdom pieces that you've learned in your journey. If there's somebody, and by the way, let me ask this: how could somebody who's viewing our episode, how could they get in touch with you, or work with you, or connect with you? How do they follow you on social media? Is it just Renwick? Is it maybe the achievement resources? Is it a book that they buy? Where would they start?
Renwick, RENWICK.rocks. Google me, Renwick, RENWICK. There are not too many people with that name.
That's right.
You talk about identity. I pop up and people get to see my journey of thinking the way I share, even in little conversations like this.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay. Great. Now, I've certainly enjoyed our time together. What about one last tip that somebody, that younger version of you, maybe hasn't even come to the thought of, I'm a citizen of the world, I belong to be here. I belong to be here just like somebody else who's older than me, wiser than me, they belong to be here too. What is a tip? What is a strategy for that young version of yourself that you would give there to, if you could speak to the 24-year-olds of the world that are in their 20s, they're trying to figure it out, likely or not, the confidence level that's really going to make the biggest difference is not going to come for another 15 years. What is the strategy? What is the tip? What is the message you would like to send to them?
Yeah, beautiful question. Of course, I've got to finish with a story. Right?
Do it.
I'm hanging out on this lanai at a friend of mine on Maui, and we have dinner, we drink some wine, and we proceed to talk about music and guitarists in particular that evening. And a few names popped up, and then I admitted, again, there's a power in confessing your truth and even your inadequacies. And that's what I did by saying, and there I was in my late 40s, 50, and I was saying, after having lived that length of time, that I had not listened to much of Jimi Hendrix. it was a very humbling confession. And my friend said to me, "You haven't?" I said, "No, I haven't listened to much." He said, "I've got a few CDs. I'd be more than happy to put one on, DVDs." I said, "Sure." So he proudly takes me into his entertainment room and he puts on this DVD of Jimi Hendrix. And after about 12 seconds, I looked at him and I said, "This is amazing. This is unbelievable." And he looked at me and he simply said, "No wasted movement." And as I considered those words, it occurred to me that was in large part, why Jimi Hendrix produced the kind of sound, the kind of music from his guitar that is unheralded. And over the years, it's come to be a signature idea in my work. And so as the youngsters ponder what to do, how to get ahead, I say, don't just ponder, take action. Reduce the distance between thought and action by practicing the principle of no wasted movement. When I consider why so many don't make as much progress as they're capable of, it's got less to do with the quality of their ideas than it has to do with the action they don't take. No wasted movement. Execute, execute, execute. You're gonna make mistakes, but execute. Ask for help. Collaborate.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to admit you don't know. Don't hesitate to ask for help. Those are significant steps. Admitting and asking for help for the purpose of making it easier, less stressful for you to execute. And that's the key. Execute on ideas, even when they're not the best. No waste.
Love it. Thank you, Renwick, for sharing your experiences, your expertise on the call with us. And by the way, thank you all that are watching this and whether it's recording or whenever you're watching this, thank you for viewing this call and for following TMC Coaching. You can learn more about me and what I do online, what I do for businesses at tmccoaching.org, our website. And if you'd like more information about how I can serve you personally, you can connect with me by hitting me up at tracy@tmccoaching.org. Until next time, you guys, surround yourself with quality people that know a little bit more than what you do. People like Renwick, Brutus. And I know that they're going to add some value. Learn to collaborate with other entrepreneurs that have either been there, done that, or in the same boat with you, where you can learn and grow together. Until next time, value that time. Learn to think deeper and dig deeper as we journey together. Thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
On behalf of Tracy, thank you for watching this episode of the Collaborative Entrepreneur Podcast. Be sure to like this video and turn on notifications for future episodes coming out every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to learn more about Tracy and the work that he does, you can find us at 180turnarounds.com. Also on all social media platforms under 180 Turnarounds. If you want to get in touch with Tracy about being on the Collaborative Entrepreneur Podcast, you can do so by emailing us at tracy@tmccoaching.org. Let us know the industry that you're in, as well as some wins and learns that you've had along the way. So until next time, let's win together.